get started in 1 second. I'm just going to put some music on. If you want to grab your props, just put into the chat what you might like to have handy. Just blocks. If you need, if you don't have blocks, you can always try using a couple books. For today, one could be like a big, heavy, thick book, and then another one is like a little lighter. It could be still hardback, but not a big, thick one, so sort of a lighter one. So once you have that, get settled onto your mat. As soon as I start this, okay. So today we are doing a practice that has a lot to do with the summer solstice, which is going to be starting. It's going to be officially starting during our class today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. At first, you can just get set into a comfortable seated position on your mat. So today at 5:43, the summer solstice is going to begin. And there's a lot of other stuff going on, in case you didn't know. I'm sure you do know. I had to write it all down. All these things going on. A lot of this I owe to my dear, brilliant teacher, Allison West. Other stuff is just my own thoughts or observations. Of course, yesterday was Juneteenth, a huge day marking the, let's say, one step in the liberation of enslaved African Americans. A major step, and we're still feeling the reverberations from that, as well as all the reverberations of the recent Black Lives Matter protests. As I said, summer solstice is starting. There's also an amazing solar eclipse that's going to happen. We can't see it here. The best place to be seeing it right now in the world is Tibet. And I'm just trying to imagine being in Tibet right now, about to observe this summer solar eclipse that's going to be like the ring of fire, which means the moon is going to exactly line up with the sun, so you can just see the ring of the sun. What else is happening? It's a new moon. It's World Refugee Day. Tomorrow's the International Day of Yoga, which they always have on summer solstice, so it's not a big surprise, but it is happening. And also it's Pride Month, with the beautiful symbol of the rainbow, which is of course made by sunlight. So there's a lot happening with the sun right now. At 5:43, we'll be starting the 24-hour period of the year that has the most daylight in it. So what do we do with all this light? It's a lot. It's wonderful, but sometimes it can be actually too much. If it's starting to get hot and you don't like the heat, you're starting to feel like, wait, this is maybe a little bit too much for me. So we have to learn how to process. Solstice, the word solstice means sun standing still. So it's a moment when the sun seems to stand still because it's about to turn in its cycle, in a sense. So it's a moment for us to also sit still, maybe give our souls a moment of standing still and prepare for the next half of the year. The winter solstice, we're preparing for the new year. Now we're preparing for the second half of the year, the beginning of summer. So the crops are growing. The sunlight has called forth the crops from the earth, but now we have to tend the garden in order to achieve that harvest later. if we don't tend the garden well during the summer, even though the plants are already growing, we won't get that full harvest. So in a way, you can think of the illumination in a metaphorical sense is going to call forth our spiritual growth. And we need to tend to that during these months in order to maybe achieve a fuller spiritual enlightenment. So I know it's a lot. Stick with me. We're going to talk about the chakra, the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, which is, of course, the seat of enlightenment in the body. It's supported by all the chakras, though. We don't just think of this one being like the highest, so it's the best in a hierarchical sense. All the chakras have to work together. So we're going to work a little bit through the body to the head in order to maybe find that sense of enlightenment. Sometimes enlightenment can feel distant, though. It can feel like it's very hard to achieve. So we're going to work with the chakras to awaken all the chakras, but also the crown chakra in particular, in order to remind ourselves that the enlightenment is always available and always around us. We just need to become more sensitive to it. So if I didn't throw enough at you already, I'll be throwing some more at you at the end of class. But for now, we're just going to find a comfortable seat. I'm sitting on a block between my feet in Virasana. You can also sit cross-legged. You can sit any way that you like, as long as you can feel your sitting bones grounding down. That's the most important thing for right now. We want to start with a tiny bit of Mula Bandha. So this is a tiny bit of the pelvic floor engaging and lifting up into the body. If you've never worked with Mula Bandha before, that's basically what it means. It's internal, so you can't see that someone's doing it. If you're familiar with Kegels, it's similar, only it's more a sense of lifting up. Kegels are like a squeezing, as if you were, stopping your flow of urine. Kegel is the same thing. Only now with the Mula Bandha, we're thinking of engaging that, but also lifting up into the body. There are other layers of pelvic floor muscles that we're going to be trying to engage. So that's Mula Bandha. So let's just hold that for a moment and just try to find it. And you can think of it in the area between the sitting bones, pubic bone and the front tailbone in the back. There's sort of maybe a diamond shape. You can picture it there. Think of in the center of that diamond, lifting up into the body. That's Mula Bandha. And go ahead and release it after just a breath or two. We're going to go back to that again in a moment. It's best to do it first when you're seated because you can feel the sitting bones and everything. Now we're going to do a little bit of a breathing practice called Sitali. And I really love doing this one. It's great in the hot weather or anytime. It brings a cooling sensation to the brain, and it's a calming, centering kind of breath. It is made by curling the tongue up into like a little tube or straw shape. So the edges of the tongue curl up and you make a little circle, and you're sipping the air through that little straw on an inhalation. If you can't do that, some people just can't do it for some reason. You can also just purse the lips and make a tiny little round hole to sip the air through with your lips. That's another way to do Sitali. So we're going to do just a few rounds of Sitali, inhaling through that little round shape, whichever it is, your lips or your tongue. And then exhaling, close your mouth and exhale through the nose. That's Sitali breath. As we're doing that, a few rounds of Sitali breath, we're going to hold our Ananta Mudra. Bring your hands into your regular prayer position to start with. Make sure the shoulders are relaxed down and back, sitting up straight. And then lifting the hands slightly, keep the base of the palm together and let all the other fingers, including the thumbs, come away from each other. So it's like you're holding a large cup or bowl. And this is the gesture of awakening and balancing the seventh chakra, Sahasrara chakra, our crown chakra, which is also called the thousand-petaled lotus. So this, of course, looks a little bit like a big lotus flower. So go ahead and hold your mudra sitting up tall, and we'll just do our Sitali breath for a few rounds. I'm not going to count or anything. I'm just going to give you a few moments to practice it so everyone can go at their own rate. And just to remind you, you're going to form your round shape to inhale and then close the mouth to exhale. So let's get ready and begin our Sitali breath. Don't worry if it makes a little noise when you breathe in, it's normal. And feel free to close your eyes if you would prefer. Continue a couple more times. Take a look at the chat. And whenever you're ready, you can let go with the Sitali breath. And also gently release your mudra. And I hope that helps. And let your hands rest on your lap. Keeping the eyes closed for a couple more breaths. And just noticing any effects of the practice of Sitali breath. So moving slowly from here, we're going to come onto hands and knees and start a few rounds of cow and cat. We're going to focus a little bit on, again, Mula Bandha in cow and cat. So I'll explain how to do that. You can face any direction that works for you, facing directly towards the screen. I'm just going to be at a little bit of an angle for most of class. So making sure you have a nice stable table. And we're going to do our inhale for cow as usual. And then as we go into our cat, we're going to engage Mula Bandha, exhale, and scoop the lower belly up. And then release Mula Bandha and that scooping action as you go back into your next cow and inhale. Let's try it together. So, spreading the palms nice and wide, shoulders over wrists. Inhale, cow. Exhale, Mula Bandha, scooping into cat. Inhale, cow. Release everything that you were holding for cat. And then exhale, back into it. So it's a little, maybe slower and a little more deliberate than we usually do, cow and cat. So we can really work on that Mula Bandha holding in our cat spine, as well as scooping the lower belly in and up as if you could just plaster it right onto the front of your sacrum. You can do this with your eyes closed if you like. Continue a couple more times like that. Good. And then just go back to child's pose. Have your feet pointed. And just relax back in your child's pose for a few moments. Now, make sure you have some room in front of you coming up out of your child's pose. I'm just using this to pad under my knees. You can always have a blanket or something there if you like. We're going to come to our puppy pose from here. So the hips stay back over the knees. Reach the hands forward so you can come into your puppy pose, bringing the upper body down in line with the arms. Just taking a moment to really stretch back from the heels of the hands through the sitting bones. Maybe even just wag the tailbone a little bit side to side. Make sure you're lengthening back nice and long. And then from here, we're going to plant the forearms down. Make sure they're parallel. Move forward, shoulders over elbows. And then stretch one leg straight back and the other leg straight back to come to your forearm plank. Just for a breath or two, lengthening, cinching around the core, and then slowly lowering down, ending up in your Sphinx pose. So we're going to go through a couple rounds from Sphinx to Cobra to Locust with a couple variations in there. So every time we're lifting up into our back bend, whether it's Sphinx or Cobra or Locust, we're going to try to replicate the same shape each time. And think of right from your solar plexus. That's where the back bend begins. So below the solar plexus, let that part of the sort of the middle of the abdomen down stay on the floor. So just the solar plexus is what lifts up, starting to look forward from there. Just for this couple rounds of our floor sequence. So for Sphinx and Cobra, the legs will stay down and you'll be pressing the tops of the feet down into the floor, engaging the legs, maybe the kneecaps even lift up off the floor a little bit. Each time you come up into this shape, inhale, and each time you exhale, think of lowering down, but also reaching forward as if you could reach the heart a little bit farther forward on the floor each time. So let's go through it together. If you haven't done this with me before, I'll talk you through it, or you can just watch the first round. Inhale in Sphinx. Exhale, reach the heart forward, drag the fingers back. So you're not even lifting the hands, just dragging them back. Roll the shoulders down and back. Inhale, Cobra, keep it low. Exhale, release. Straighten the arms. Inhale, Locust. Exhale, stay up. Reach the arms forward, palms down, and inhale back to Sphinx. Let's go through it again. You can take a breath here to start to take a break, and then we'll start. We're going to do a little extra in Cobra. So from here, again, in Sphinx, inhale. Exhale, drag the hands back, reach the heart forward, roll the shoulders down. Inhale, Cobra. Try to stay up in your Cobra, meaning the legs are staying down as you straighten the arms back. Inhale and exhale here. And then the next inhalation, come up into your Locust. Inhale up to Locust. Exhale, reach forward. Inhale, back to Sphinx. Just a little ant keeps coming to my mat to visit me. Somehow I got inside. All right, let's try one more time like that. Take a breath. Inhale for Sphinx. Exhale, drag the hands back, reaching heart forward. Inhale, Cobra. Stay up, legs stay down as you reach the arms back and take a full breath. And then the next time you inhale, inhale up to Locust. Keep the arms up as you exhale and inhale back to Sphinx. Good. We're going to do one more little variation of a Cobra here. So we're going to do it almost like we're doing a variation of Dhanurasana, bow pose. So bend your knees, point the feet. It's actually two ants. Two ants in here. I'm blocking with something here. Okay. Gonna point the feet up. As we come up into our cobra, you can come up a little bit higher this time if you like. You don't have to, but if you like to do a really high cobra, now's your chance to do a really high cobra. Whichever version of cobra you're doing with the upper body, think also of lifting the chin, tilting the head back to open the throat any amount. So first, after you have your toes pointed up behind you, you're gonna bring your hands back to your cobra position. And then inhale, maybe lift a little bit higher and tilt the head back. Like you just wanna touch your toes to the back of your head. Any amount. Think of lifting the chin most of all, stretching and opening the front of the throat. And then lower down, turn the elbows out and rest the head down on your folded hands for a few breaths. You can wiggle the legs and hips side to side a few times. Let's continue resting a couple more breaths. And then finally coming back up to your child's pose. Here's where we're going to use our blocks or books if you're using some books. I'm going to do a couple different versions of child's pose. First, you're going to put your forehead down on a block. Even if your head normally comes down, for this one, you're going to put it on a block so that we can be pressing really into that forehead right around where the third eye chakra is, ajna chakra. So we want to have that pressure there a little bit. Nothing crazy. At the same time, we're going to take another block, or if you have a book, there should be a lighter, much lighter, smaller book, hardback, but could be, don't use your Encyclopedia Britannica or anything like that, or your OED or anything like that. If you have a ponytail or something for your hair, you might need to move it. You're going to come into your child's pose. You have the knees a little bit apart for this one. And just come. You can watch first for a second if you're wondering what the heck I'm doing. You're going to come down into your child's pose with the forehead on the block. Reach forward with the hands, block between the hands. Let the elbows come down. And you're going to bring the block to the back of your head. And we're just lightly pressing the back of the head so that the forehead presses into the block a little bit more. Stay there for a few breaths. You'll notice I'm using the foam block under my head because it'd be a little bit uncomfortable to do it on a hard block like this. This is a cork block. So if it's a little bit uncomfortable on your head, if you're using like a hard book, you can always put a little blanket there or a towel, something to pad it. If it's, mildly uncomfortable, you can take it. You can just stay there and just ease up on the pressure on the back of the head. We're just making a little sandwich with our head. Same time, doing a little tricep stretch. And just taking a few breaths and then coming back up. And just sit for a couple moments, maybe close the eyes and notice maybe how that felt in the head. And now we'll do one more child's pose variation. This is with no blocks. Again, you can have the knees a little bit apart. You're going to bring your hands together and interlace the fingers. The elbows are going to stay apart, shoulder width, okay? So this might be a good way to measure your shoulder width. You can even do this on the floor, actually. You can come down on the floor, measure shoulder width for the elbows. Elbows aren't going any further apart than that. And then interlace the fingers and notice the palm heels are not together, okay? You're not squeezing your hands together like this. Just forming a little cap shape. We're gonna practice the hand position for a version of headstand. We're not gonna do headstand. We're just going to place the head down on the floor as if it was the first step of doing a headstand. So it's gonna look like this. You're gonna think of this, where your fingers are, just a little cap. It's gonna go on the back of your head. So the top of the head comes down. The thumbs are pointing up. And then you can walk the knees in closer a little bit to lift the hips a little bit more. And just feel a little bit of that pressure on the top of the head that you would experience in headstand. We might do a little more towards headstand at the end of class, but of course you're never required to do anything, whether it's headstand or anything else in class, especially if you've never done it before. Probably not the safest to try to do it for the first time without a teacher physically present with you. So please just observe. This is a very mild form of the pressure, but it is similar. Again, we're pressing the top of the head now, feeling a little bit of that awakening of the seventh chakra. So take a couple breaths and then slowly come back out of this version of child's pose. It's not even a child's pose, it's a mini headstand really. And sit up quietly for a moment. You can keep the eyes closed and just breathe and notice any effects from that practice. When you're ready, you're going to move forward into your plank pose. So you can come forward in table first. Make sure you have room behind you now, spreading the palms. Keep the shoulders over the wrists at first. You're going to reach one leg back and the other leg straight back to come to your high plank. And then up and back with the hips to come to downward facing dog. Once again, you can wag the tailbone side to side a couple times. And then come to your downward facing dog right in the center. Lift the heels super high off the floor, as high off the floor as you can get them. Bend the knees, and you might find it feels a little bit like a cow spine here for a moment. That's okay. Think of lifting off the floor as if you could just levitate your feet right off the floor. Big inhalation, and then as you exhale, start to straighten the legs and press the heels down towards the floor. And then the back will start to lengthen out. Think of the chest as if you could slide the chest up towards your pelvis, out from underneath the shoulder blades. Maybe one more breath in your downward facing dog, and then pedal out the feet a few times, and then slowly walk the feet forward towards your hands. You can also walk the hands back towards the feet. Coming to a wide forward fold, feet apart, knees bent, and just hang over your legs for a few breaths. You can shake out the head, yes and no. Holding opposite elbows, with the arms swinging back and forth a few times. Continuing to let go of the weight of the head and the arms any amount possible. At some point, switch the fold of your arms and continue releasing. And also gently sway or swing the upper body side to side. Finally, release both arms, sitting way back, bend the knees even more. Place the hands on your legs and slowly push yourself up to stand. So that's a way to stand up, is kind of coming through a little bit of an Utkatasana. I'm just going to tilt this camera a little bit more up. Okay. I think I'm going to need a little more light too. So we're going to do a few, maybe like 3 rounds. Let's say 4. We're going to do 4 rounds of a version of Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. We have to do a sun salute. It's summer solstice. So this version that I'm going to lead is without chaturanga. So you don't have to do chaturanga, which is staff pose on the floor, like a yoga push-up if you're not familiar with what that means. If you know how to do that and you really love doing it, you can add that, because we're going to be holding a plank position for about 3 breaths. So you can always do your chaturanga, or even chaturanga upward facing dog if you like to add that to your vinyasa. I will not be leading that, but when we get to that point, it'll be clear that that's where you could throw that in if you want. We'll hold plank for about 3 breaths. Then we'll do a cow, so we'll have a back bend, and then we'll do downward facing dog and hold that. So come to your Tadasana. Again, I'm facing a little bit at an angle so you can see what's happening when I step back. I'm going to mirror. Actually, it doesn't really matter for the Surya Namaskar because we're not doing different sides. So slowly, you're going to first just come to your Tadasana, feet close together, big toes touching if that's comfortable for you, a little space between your heels. When you inhale the arms up, see if you maybe can raise yourself up on the balls of your feet. Inhale, and then come down. Exhale, heels down as you fold forward. Inhale halfway up, and exhale, fold again. Bend the knees as needed. Inhale one leg back, and then the other leg back to come to your high plank. Here's where we'll stay for 3 breaths. Drop the knees. Inhale, cow spine. Toes tucked. Exhale, downward facing dog. We'll stay in our down dog again for about 3 breaths or so. Again, lengthening, sliding the chest up towards the pelvis, any amount, from underneath the shoulder blades. On an inhalation, raise the heels, bend the knees, and you can either walk forward or maybe you want to take a couple jumps to get forward, or combine jumping and stepping, coming all the way forward into your forward fold for a moment. Inhale, sit back, bend the knees, and raise yourself up through Utkatasana, and then finally exhale, stand all the way up into Tadasana. Inhale, raise the heels as you raise the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, fold again. Bend the knees. Inhale, one leg back, and then the other leg back on your exhalation. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, drop the knees, cow spine. Tuck the toes, exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, bend the knees, lift the heels, and again, either jumping or stepping forward or any combination, coming forward into your forward fold for a moment. Exhale. Inhale, sitting back. Exhale, raise the arms up to Utkatasana. Inhale, Tadasana, and exhale. We're going to do 2 more rounds. If you can think of when you first step back into plank, step back first with your right leg, and then the next round, step back first with your left leg, just to balance off the stepping back. If you can't remember which leg you stepped with, I wouldn't worry about it. Again, standing in Tadasana. Inhale, arms up, raise the heels slightly off the floor. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale, exhale. Bend the knees, inhale, right leg back. Exhale, left leg back. 3 breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Inhale, cow, drop the knees, and exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Again, 3 breaths. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees. Sitting bones pointing straight up. And then either hopping, jumping, stepping, combo to come forward once again to your forward fold. Inhale, exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, Tadasana. Last round. Inhale, the arms out to either side, raise the heels, and exhale, fold forward. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, step the left leg back. Exhale, right leg back. 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, drop the knees, cow spine. Exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale, bend the knees, lift the heels. And again, either hopping, jumping, stepping, any way you like to come forward into your forward fold. Inhale, bend the knees, sitting back. Exhale, the arms up to Utkatasana. Inhale, standing all the way up into your Tadasana once again. We're going to continue with a little variation now into a couple different standing poses from our stepping back. So you'll see. You're going to just start off the same way again. Inhale, arms up, slightly raise the heels. Exhale, come down. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, fold again. Bend your knees as needed. Get the hands to the floor and step your right foot back into your low lunge. Drop the knee. Inhale up. Crescent lunge. Exhale. Hands down. Inhale, tuck the back toes and lift that back knee. And then bring the hands to the inside of your front foot and start to walk the hands around to your right side to come to a wide straddle position in the legs. Feet are parallel. And we'll just take a couple breaths folding forward in our straddle. And shake out the head, yes and no here. Whichever arm position might feel nice. You can either cross the arms or reach the arms back behind you. Couple of breaths like that, just folding forward. Then bring the hands forward again so you can take a little bit of weight into your hands and turn the toes out, heels in. We're going to set up our legs for a goddess position. So that means that when you bend your knees, the knees come out over the ankles. So if you had a super wide straddle pose, you might need to narrow it a little bit, bring the feet a little bit closer together. And then for goddess pose, your knees are going to track out over the ankles. You can come up for a moment, your basic goddess pose, cactus arms. Try to tuck the tailbone so it points straight down towards the floor. We'll just hold that a couple breaths. And then on an inhalation, stretch all the way up. Coming to a Kali Mudra position in the hands. Interlacing the fingers together, except for the index fingers pointing straight up. Inhale, pointing those pointer fingers straight up towards the ceiling, stretching up. And then on your exhalation, come back into your goddess pose, bringing your Kali Mudra down to the top of the head. We'll just do that a couple more times. Inhale, straighten everything up. And exhale. Pressing the roots of the hands down into the top of your head. Inhale and exhale. Last time this time, you'll just inhale, release the hands, swivel forward. So the left foot turns, so it's facing forward again. Right foot turns a little bit in. It's going to do a big sweep either side, inhaling the arms back, facing forward again, and then exhale. Hands to the floor, either side of that front foot. Swivel onto the ball of your back foot and step that back foot forward. Inhale, lifting up, sitting back. Exhale, reach the arms up into Utkatasana. Inhale, standing up again to Tadasana. I'm going to swivel to the other side. We're just going to do that on the other side with a couple variations. Inhale, arms up, heels up. And exhale, fold forward once again. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, bend the knees as needed and step your left foot all the way back. Drop the knee, inhale up to your crescent lunge. And exhale, hands down either side of the front foot. Bring the hands to the inside. Oh, let's tuck the back toes and straighten the back leg first. Bring the hands to the inside. And walk the feet around to your straddle on this side. I'm going to just stay a couple moments again, folding forward in our straddle. This is optional, but if you'd like to try, if your top of your head is close to the floor, you can maybe get it onto either a block or your other prop or to the floor itself. Don't force it, but maybe if it's close, you can figure out if that would work for you. It's also a matter of finding how far apart your legs need to be. If it's comfortable to get them farther apart, that'll get your head closer to the floor. So you can try that out. Again, just a gentle pressure on the top of the head. And noticing how that changes your breath when you experience that pressure on the top of the head. And then slowly come out, taking some weight into your hands again, so you can bring your feet into goddess position. So maybe you need to bring the feet closer together, turn the toes out, bend the knees, and check out, can you get the knees basically over your ankles? Then we'll come up once again to goddess pose for just a couple breaths. And then we're just going to do a couple variations. This is sometimes called temple pose. So you're going to put your left forearm down on your left thigh and stretch the right arm over your right ear. So it's a kind of almost like a mini extended side angle, but we're keeping our legs in goddess the whole time. Inhale, stretch one arm out. You're just going to go back and forth. Exhale in the center. Inhale, stretch to the side. Exhale, center. Inhale, stretch to the side. Let's do 2 more times. Once each side. Inhale. And exhale, center. Inhale. And then finally, come to center again, holding your goddess pose. 1 more breath. Inhale, everything straight up. Turn the right foot forward. Swivel the back foot in. Facing completely forward again. Do a big circle either side of the arms. Little tiny bit of a back bend in the upper spine. as you inhale and then exhale, hands down. Swivel onto the ball of your back foot, and then step the front foot back to come to your downward facing dog. Just a couple more breaths. And anytime you're ready, drop the knees to the floor and push back to child's pose to rest for a few breaths. We have now entered this day of summer solstice by just a few minutes. So I hope you're enjoying all the sunlight, and it's not too much for you right now. Shade is also a wonderful thing, I must say. Shade has become more and more my favorite thing over the years. So we're going to find, once again, that arm position that was in our ants have invaded headstand prep. So as I said before, there's no obligation to go too far towards headstand, but if you do know, I'll give you a little time so you could actually do headstand for a few breaths. If you aren't sure, obviously don't do it. It's not something that you should just do willy-nilly, especially without personal instruction from someone who's actually present with you. But the basics we can pretty much all practice, unless you have an issue with your neck, anything like a detached retina, high blood pressure, probably take it easy on this as well. So again, you're going to have your hold opposite elbows and bring your hands into that little cap position. So this is going to go in the back of your head. Don't think of flattening or grasping the back of your head with all your fingers. You can leave a little bit of space between the fingers themselves here and the back of your head. What should be touching the back of your head is the base of the palm here and probably the thumb, inside of the thumb. Okay, so we'll just try that. And again, coming to that position with the top of the head down. You can always just stay there for just a few breaths. If you'd like to try coming halfway up to headstand, here's how you could do it. From here, tuck the toes and just lift the knees off the floor. And that's a way you can put a little more pressure on your head. And I would probably say, if you've never done that before, just do it for a couple breaths and then come back down. For Shirshasana, it's important to note that even though it's called headstand, we are using the arms a lot. Okay, there are versions, very advanced versions, where you're not using the arms, but we're not doing that. Okay, we're using the arms a lot. So especially in this arm position, think of pressing the forearms down a lot, lifting the shoulders away from the floor. Okay, so if you want to try, you're not shrugging the shoulders, so the shoulders are not coming towards your ears. You're pushing them up. Okay, so they're coming up away from the floor. And if you try that, you'll feel a lot more weight in the arms and a little less weight on the top of the head. So try that a couple times or for just a couple breaths. If you do want to do a full headstand, here's where you could take a couple moments to come into a full headstand. Or you could do what we were just doing and just raise one leg up. All right, so it would just be like this. Just try one leg up and then the other leg up. If you don't want to do full headstand, you also do it with bent knees. If you're pregnant or having your period, don't do this, or don't do a full headstand. You could do the other things. You could try a little bit of the inversion, but just take it easy and just do a couple breaths. And then finally, whenever you're ready, come back down and just stay in child's pose for a few breaths. And then finally, when you're ready, no rush, just come up to sit. I'm going to change this a tiny bit once again. When you're ready, come on up to sit and stretch the legs out in front. Press your hands to the floor a little bit behind you. I'm turning my knuckles down to the floor a little bit behind me so I can scooch myself forward on my mat a little bit. This is moving the flesh out from underneath the sitting bones back behind. You can also do it a little bit with your hands. So you can feel the sitting bones grounding down. Feet lightly flexed, legs straight. Excuse me, we'll just fold forward here. Inhale, stretch the arms up, and exhale, fold forward. Reaching for your calves, ankles, feet, anything you can reach, while keeping the spine nice and long and straight. You can hold the big toes. Couple more breaths, and then slowly sit back up. Come onto your back. And at first, just hug your knees in towards your chest. And then up to you to either stay like this, or if you'd like to do happy baby, lift the feet up so the soles of the feet are facing towards the ceiling. Bend the knees, separate the feet wide apart. Knees are also wide apart. And then either holding onto the feet or holding behind the knees. Hug the knees down towards the floor either side of you. And then slowly release and let the feet come down to the floor. Keep the feet wide apart, even maybe wider than they were for happy baby. Bring the arms out to your sides and then just let the knees fall gently side to side a few times. It's a really gentle twist. Go a few times each side. Make sure you go in even number of times to the sides. You stay a little bit longer on one side, that's fine. Just try to do the same next time. Go to the other side. And then finally, coming back to center, bring the feet parallel, hip width apart. So a little closer together now. Walk the feet in towards you any amount. We'll just do one easy bridge. Arms down alongside you, palms pressing down. Press into the feet to lift the hips up off the floor. Just a gentle bridge, not a big deal. We didn't do a whole lot of back bending today, so just keep it nice and easy. Just feeling a few breaths, stretching out the front of the thighs, sending the knees forward any amount. Same time the knees are going forward away from you, the direction of your feet. Think of the sternum going the opposite direction towards your chin. And then slowly lower down out of your bridge. After this, we will just be going to Shavasana. Is there anything else you wanted to do for a moment that we didn't get to? Take a moment now to do that. Otherwise, we'll set up for Shavasana any way you like, any variations or versions that you like. For Shavasana, I'm going to show just your basic traditional Shavasana for a moment. Stretching the legs straight out on the floor. Push the feet away from you until the legs are straightened out completely, and then relax the legs. So sometimes it's almost, sometimes it's hard to know if we're completely relaxed. Okay, we always say, oh, completely relax the legs. Sometimes it's hard to know. So one way to get more of that complete release or relaxation is actually tense the muscles first. So we'll do that a little bit today with our Shavasana. So that's why I said push the legs away and then release and then relax the legs. So the same thing with the arms. You're going to bring them down to the floor and then reach them away. This maybe also help you tuck the shoulders a little bit underneath you on the floor. So the arms are a tiny bit off the floor for a moment as you try to reach them as long and straight away from you as you can, and then bring them down to the floor and then completely relax them. We'll do one more exercise like that with the facial muscles. So you're just going to squeeze the face together, like you're just scrunching up your face as tightly as you can. Everything you can possibly squeeze together in the face and the jaw and the neck, and then release. Take a few centering breaths. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And then after your centering breath for a few rounds, just go back to breathing in and out through the nose. Otherwise, keeping the breath as soft and natural as feels right for you in this moment. We'll also take a couple moments to once again acknowledge this day, this time. And I just have a short invocation for the rest of your Shavasana. My wish is that our illumination will lead to the end of all oppression and to the liberation of all beings.
If you would like to rest in Shavasana even longer, please do so. Otherwise, if you'd like to come out of Shavasana, please start lengthening and deepening your breath once again. And then start to wiggle the fingers and toes, slowly starting to move the body once again. When you're ready, bend your knees, stretch the arms out, and slowly roll over onto one side. And then when you're ready, push yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Keep the eyes closed or half closed for as long as you like. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please send me any comments or any feedback that you would like. Wishing you all a wonderful summer solstice. And please be safe, and hope to see you again next time. Namaste.